Welcome to the African Brewery. Today we tell a story of Anansi's funeral. Let's begin this wonderful story. In the time that all animals lived together, there once lived a spider called Anansi. He lived in a village with his relatives and all kinds of other animals: hyena, porcupine, squirrel, guinea fowl, the chameleon, the lion, the warthog, and many, many more. Anansi was one of the village elders, and one day he summoned all his friends and relations to discuss how they could do more to help each other. Since they were all farmers, they decided it would be a good idea if they would all go to help one individual each day to plow, weed, harvest, whatever needed doing in the fields or around the house. For example, on Monday, they will start at Anansi's uncle's farm to help. On Tuesday, it will be his grandfather. And so on Wednesday, it would be his nephew's turn. Anansi put himself in charge of this program, and he saw to it that everyone joined in and helped out. After a month or so, he was quite thinking, and after a whole while of thinking, he came up with an idea. He said to himself, I think I can see a way to benefit from this arrangement. I could pretend to be really ill so I can't help out with the others. And by the time I'm well again, all the work on my farm will be done. So the next morning, so the next morning, Anansi stayed in his bed. And when his nephew came to call on him, he told him, Oh, you, hmm, my dear nephew, this body of mine is really sick today. I'm afraid I can't join you today. Anansi's nephew told the others that his uncle was sick. They were all very concerned and decided that the next day they will all go and help out on Anansi's farm. This went on for several weeks, and Anansi's conditions got no better. One or two people started to whisper, It's all very well us helping out on Anansi's farm. When is he going to give us a hand? Anansi heard the complaints and realized that he would he wouldn't be able to pretend for much longer. He decided he would have to do something to make everybody believe that he was really sick. The next day, he called some of his relatives together and said to them, This illness of mine has been going on for some time, and it doesn't look as if I'm getting any better. In fact, I feel worse every day. I think I'm going to die. Some of his relatives protested. No, 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 uncle. How can you say that? You won't die. Oh, my brother, you won't die. I will call on the medicine man and get you some herbs. But Anansi told them he was getting weaker all the time and started making his funeral arrangements. When I die, he said, you should bury me on my brother KWAME's farm. I have always loved these yams, and I would like to be buried next to them. Kwame agreed to his brother and decided Anansi will be buried in his farm. After all, it's very difficult not to grant a dying man his last wish. Anansi continued giving his instructions. They should dig a big hole and line the walls with cloth so that his spirit will be comfortable. They should put pots, pans, and cooking utensils in the grave so that his spirit will be able to prepare food for himself. Anansi's relations set to work digging the grave, while Anansi himself pretended that his condition was getting worse all the time. Soon, Anansi learned that the grave was finished. So the next time he saw someone approaching his house, he pretended to be dead. They tried to wake him, but Anansi wouldn't wake up. So they decided that he must indeed be dead. The next day, they took his body and laid it in the grave, which had indeed been prepared by the way Anansi had instructed. There were pots, pans, and cooking utensils. That same night, Anansi climbed out of the grave and started collecting yams from the field, which he hid in his tomb. He cooked some of them, he made fufu with some of them. When daylight approached, Anansi hid in his tomb and slept. The next night, he collected more yams and feasted again. This carried on for 1 month. Eventually, Kwame noticed that someone had been stealing his yams. He thought long and hard. Who could have done this to him? Normally, he would have suspected Anansi because he knew what his cunning brother was like. But he was dead, and he just couldn't think who else could be doing this to him. Kwame decided to set a trap. He went to see the carpenter and got some steady wooden poles, which he took to his farm, where he poured coal tar all over them and placed them strategically around his field, like scarecrows, except these scarecrows weren't meant scare, but to trap. Kwame was sure that the thief, whoever he was, would either touch one of the poles and get tar all over himself, or leave a mark of some kind by which he could be able to be identified. That night, when Anansi came out of his tomb to help himself to a few more of his brother's yams, he immediately spotted a figure standing in the middle of the field. Oh, oh, he thought to himself, somebody is watching me. But he noticed the figure just stood there, not moving at all. His curiosity got the better of him, and he slowly crept up to the figure. As the post didn't stand very tall, Anansi figured it must be a young boy. He decided to play a trick on the child. He crept up to it and said to it, I've just seen your mother out looking for you. She said you have to come home to have your dinner. But there was no reaction from the scarecrow. Anansi repeated, your mother has been looking for you. Your dinner is waiting for you. But there was still no reaction. Anansi got quite annoyed at the child's insolence. Look, I'm talking to you, you vagabond. Why don't you answer me? Still no reply. And Anansi got even more annoyed. Do you want me to slap you? Very well, I'll slap you, and then we'll see what happens. With that, Anansi gave the scarecrow a big slap, and his hand got stuck in the tar. He pulled, but he couldn't get loose. Let go of me, you rascal, he shouted. Let go of this hand. He screamed at the wooden pole to let go of his hand. Let go of me, or I'll slap you again. And he slapped with his free hand. And immediately that one got stuck in the tar as well. Anansi got more and more agitated and angry. I'll give you a good kicking if you don't let go of me. He kicked the scarecrow with his left foot, and that got stuck. He kicked again with his right, and that got stuck as well. Anansi was now well and truly stuck to the scarecrow. He tried pulling as hard as he could, but there was no way he was going to pull himself free. In the end, he was so exhausted he had to give up and cried himself to sleep. As soon as the sun was up, Anansi's brother Kwame came strolling into his field, eager to see if his plan had worked. He looked around carefully and saw that no more of his yams had been stolen. So that part of the plan had worked. Smiling to himself, he went round to inspect the tadpoles. When lo and behold, he saw the figure of a spider attached to it. As he hurriedly got closer, he recognized his brother, Anansi. Kwame exclaimed, Anansi, Anansi, what are you doing here? You were supposed to be dead. Coolly, Anansi replied, Anansi is indeed dead. It is his ghost you are looking at. You may have gathered by now that Kwame was rather naive. He was also very superstitious. So when he heard these words, he really believed this was a ghost addressing him. He became very scared and ran away. He ran straight back to the village, calling out to everyone he passed, Anansi's ghost. I've seen Anansi's ghost. People gathered around him wanting to know more. Kwame told them he had seen Anansi's ghost, stuck to a pole he'd put on his farm. Of course, the villagers all wanted to see this, so they all started running to Kwame's farm. There, they saw for themselves the figure of Anansi, still glued to the pole. What are you doing here? They asked. You are supposed to be dead. We buried you not long ago. You are looking at my ghost, wailed Anansi, who was by now getting very uncomfortable. The villagers too were scared and they were about to run away when Anansi cried out, Stop, stop, why are you running away? I'm your relation, aren't I? There's no need to be scared, and anyway, I need your help. I need help. One of the braver men came a little closer and asked, What kind of help do you need, Anansi? Anansi replied, I'm stuck to this tadpole, can't you see? I need help to pull me free. Two or three of them worked up enough courage to approach and started pulling at him. Anansi was giving them instructions. Pull here, a little more on this side, a little harder here. But one of the villagers who had been pulling at Anansi's leg stood back and scratched his head. Wait a minute, he said. This is not a ghost. This is the real Anansi. He's not dead at all. They all pulled and suddenly stopped. Yes, said another. How can a ghost be instructing us to pull here, pull there? They started hitting him with sticks, throwing mud at him, raining insults on him. After a while, Kwame took pity on his brother and asked them to stop. They pulled him loose and told him to leave the village and never to show his face again. After Anansi was banned, all his family members were so ashamed that they decided to leave the village. And that to this day, whenever you see a spider, it is always trying to hide somewhere. Don't forget to subscribe and also click the bell button so anytime we post a new story, you'll be notified. Thank you.